Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending our author work group. This series I'm calling Self-Publishing Made Simple, and this is a 12-week work group that we are about halfway through. So we have a number of authors joining us today and folks that are accessing this remotely for the replay. So as we go through, I'm going to go through just a basic agenda. Let me move over to I'm starting now. I'll just do a quick check-in for the work group attendees and for those that are accessing this. Just want to make sure that the work group is progressing. And if you're stuck, I want you to have, an opportunity to just do a little test of how far you've come, where you should be now, and what to do if you need help. So then Jay is going to start, and we're going to go through the topic of the business side of publishing with J Molesky. So let me just get started briefly, and then I'll introduce our speaker. So at this point in the work group, you should be following along with the reading assignments. Make sure that you go into the author work group forum. Each week, it has a separate thread. There are assignments there. You have replay links. Once the meetings are held, there are replay links there for you to go ahead. Anything we talk about or share, templates, tools, links, I will also link to in those threads to try to make it easier for you. So you should be through section 31, which is the marketing section in your reading. So if you haven't gotten that far, start trying to catch up a little bit. And if you need some help or guidance or are stuck, then feel free to put time on my calendar and we'll do some one-on-one just to kind of help you get where you need to be. With regard to completed activities, at this point, which is about halfway through the group, you should have your professional edit complete. So if you've not already done that, then start moving that forward. If you need help with finding an editor, we do have Bobby Hinman, and it's her book that we're using for this course. So she is a phenomenal editor and is here for you. I also have a couple of other resources I can share with you if you need other options as well. And you should be starting to think about your characters and your illustrations. Now, we know that we're not going to jump over editing or start illustration early until you're edited. However, now is a good time, as you're waiting for your edit to come back, to start interviewing, getting to know a few illustrators, take a look at some of the styles of illustration that you like, pay for a sample or two, and actually, once you've gotten that far and you're able to select an illustrator, now you can be prepared for, as your book is finished editing, to very smoothly move on through into illustrations. And the reason I think that this is so important and key right now is that we are coming up on the holidays really soon. So if you want any chance of being able to have holiday sales, you're going to want to start moving into your illustrations and not drag. Otherwise, you may have to plan on, delivering or thinking about the following year as far as sales go. So things are going to get very busy for illustrators. They're going to get very busy for you, and the timeline's going to be closing pretty fast. I'm going to stop there for a second. Anybody have questions on those couple things I shared? No? Okay. Some of the things that we have recently talked about in the work group with our newest meetings, we have the illustration process. So if you have not seen those videos, it'll be very helpful for you to understand the illustration process, especially since if you're finishing up your editing, you're going to have to start moving forward with that. So there is already a recording out there for that for you. And thinking about building your author platform In other words, do you have landing pages together? Have you thought about how you're going to be collecting email addresses, giveaways, things to help build? The very worst thing that can happen is to launch your book to crickets. So while you're, starting to transition and your illustrator is taking off and doing pencil sketches and things like that, this is a good time for you to start just really focusing on those areas for how can you build up your following, your fans, help them get to know you, and really get ready to have that author platform so that when you do go live or you do move forward to a launch day, you have the people behind you backing you and helping you so that that launch goes to a best-selling new book. And then marketing, we've had a couple of speakers already on marketing. We had Lyda McClellan, who did an amazing job talking through and probably has everybody's head spinning about marketing and the various different things that can be done with marketing. So thinking about marketing and your strategy and starting to prepare on the things that you'll need to put together. I'm not saying you have to start all that, but just start wrapping your head around the types of things that you want to focus on for your marketing efforts. So that's it for me right now as far as, just a quick check-in with you guys. I'll pause just for a second before we get into an introduction for Jay. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I was just going to say something. It's really, really important to get your professional editing done because I thought I had my story exactly how I wanted it, but Bobby actually helped me quite a bit to change and improve the ending, and we actually ended up adding a character. So it's important to, to make sure that that is done before you go into the illustration process, because now we've got this new character that's going to be a big part of my book, and also we'll be able to carry on and do some future books with this other character. So
thank you, Melanie. That is so right. And Bobby, did you want to add anything there as far as from the editing side or anything else as far as where they should be at this point? Bobby, you're on mute. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Okay. Again, because of several things that have happened in the past few weeks, I have to reiterate, do not illustrate until you've edited. Really, really important. And we did create a really cute character, Melanie. I can't wait for the next one.
I can tell you that we have I have some authors that as I look out onto this, we've got 22 people on the line today with this live. I'm already looking at authors that are well on their way to illustrations as well. So, congratulations on all the progress you're making. And it's definitely going to be worth it as we get through and we start preparing for the holiday season. So if you're starting to get discouraged or you're starting to get stuck, reach out and I'll be glad to spend some time one-on-one with you, and we'll, just try to figure out how best to help get over that hump and move forward. And Bobby and I are always here, and we stay after the course, after the classes as well, so that if anybody needs some one-on-one attention, you have that ability. And we also, that's another reason why we reserve Tuesdays from, I've got it from 8 to 10 p.m. on Tuesdays is just an optional drop-in, and you can come with any issue. And if it's, I need help on setting up my KDP, or, I need to get over this hump, then come join, and we record all of those too for the benefit of anyone else who may have some of the same questions.
I've got a quick question, April. This is
Sure.
for Bobby.
Okay.
Bobby, I paid for your basic editing project, but I did it at 37 pages. I've since cut it down to 28 pages. Is it possible to throw it back at you and say, does this flow correctly or smoothly?
Absolutely. Send it to me.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, guys. So if you are not speaking, if you can put yourself back on mute so that we don't have any background noise, I want to introduce J Molesky. Many of you already know Jay from the amazing Facebook group that he co-leads with Diane Alber. I have to say and offer a plug, if you are not a part of this Facebook group and you found me from somewhere else, if I only had one Facebook group that I could join, that would be the one that I would be joining on. It is a wealth of information on publishing, on any help on helping you move forward with self-publishing process and learn about a ton of stuff. So it's jam-packed with information. And I'll let Jay talk a little bit about his group when he goes through it. So Jay is a father, an entrepreneur, a speaker, a best-selling author, and he is a valued mentor to me, and I know many others who are in that Facebook group. He studied economics at Brandeis University, and he currently lives in New Jersey. His daughter, Bria, is the inspiration for all of his creative writing endeavors. Welcome, Jay, and I'm so grateful to have you with the group. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to share. I've made you a co-presenter, so you're fine with sharing your slides. But if you want to start by talking a little bit about yourself and your background before you get into your presentation, that would be great.
Surely. Let me, since I'm not actually the most technical person in any room, let me just make sure that I can properly share my screen first. This would be it. Let's see. So I believe I'm sharing now, and I think everybody should be seeing my PowerPoint presentation. Is that correct? I'm assuming everyone is shaking their head yes.
Yes. Yep. You're good.
Great. All right. Wonderful. Let me see if I can actually make this. Take up the entire screen. I can't always do it, but we'll try. Let's see. Hold on one second. Okay. Is that better or worse? Really?
I think it looks good. I mean, it's showing both. It's showing two slides at a time.
Yeah, it's a little wonky. Okay, you know what? We'll just go back to this. This is easier. Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me on this. I've heard a lot about this group. People are talking about it quite a bit. So I'm glad that I can be on here for one of these presentations. And I appreciate you inviting me. Just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up on a few things before I get into myself and what I'll be talking about. I do speak rather quickly. This is by far the slowed down version. It doesn't get much slower than this, but if anybody is not English speaking by nature and this is you're having a hard time understanding me, please just let me know and I will do my best to slow it down even further. That tends to give me a wicked headache, but I will I'll do whatever I can to make myself as understandable and legible as I can be. Give you guys a little bit of background on myself. I basically have jumped from one business to another. I think saying that I've studied economics at Brandeis is a stretch. I graduated with a degree in economics. I'm not sure I studied much. Looking back, I wish I had studied a bit more. Probably would know a lot more a lot sooner. But when I got out of college, I just started an advertising and marketing agency out of my bedroom. That grew into an agency that was one of the top 10 agencies for a little while in North Jersey. I guess probably all of Jersey. We had at our height about 50 employees, working with brands such as Washington Mutual, Hershey's, the NBA, JVC, and others. And I actually, got to be honest with you, I loved every second of it. I loved being creative. I loved coming up with creative campaigns. It was a lot of fun for me, right up until the day that Washington Mutual went out of business, and that day was not so much fun for me. We continued on after that, but actually social media had started to become a little bit bigger, and suddenly the advertising industry was a lot less fun. We went from creating a lot of really fun, interesting, creative campaigns to finding myself coming in every day and updating the Hershey Kisses Facebook fan page, which was mind-numbingly boring. So got out of that. I sold it off to my partner, and I got into online media, where I started a video sharing company called MyPod Studios. Sold that off, and I started a viral content company called puckermob.com. The name is basically meaningless, just two words that were put together for no particular reason. It was a website that published absolute horrible content, about 60 articles a day, all geared towards millennial females. You were right, he was wrong. You were great, he's a jerk, he never deserved you in the first place. And we would get 10 million plus 20-year-old girls coming and sharing the articles with other people. And it got to a point where although the site was doing well and we had a very large following, over 1 million people on Facebook, God knows how many we had on Instagram and Twitter and all that. I got to a point where I really just couldn't continue putting all this dreck out into the world. So I have a daughter, like April had mentioned. Her name is Bria. Bria is 7 years old, and she's got cerebral palsy. So she can't walk or talk yet, but is one of the happiest kids that you've ever met, and tries very hard to make strides in all different areas. And one of the things that I would credit towards her development, cognitively at least, is the fact that I would read to her pretty much every night. I'm divorced now, but I still have her 50% of the time. And even now when I do have her, we read an awful lot of books. And I started reading, as I'm reading all the different books that were out there, and I realized that some of them just really weren't very good for as popular as they were. For example, I cannot express more emphatically how not a fan of the Pow Pow Fish I am, because I just think it's a horrendous little book. But it sells a shit ton of copies. That's the other thing I want to warn you about. I do curse a lot. Can't really help it. So apologize in advance. It sells a ton of copies, and I started thinking, you know what, I could do this. I have had a publishing background during my advertising days. I was a little bit spoiled when it comes to publishing. I was where most people have to go through an agent and spend years looking for a publisher. I had publishers that came to me. Pearson Education sought me out, asking me if I would write a book on how to use Photoshop, and I did that. I did a few different books on design and Photoshop and graphics and things like that. Until my acquisitions editor moved over to Cengage Publishing, which is a division of Thomson Reuters, and asked me if I would write books for them. And I said, not going to write any more Photoshop books, but I will write books on branding and marketing. So I wrote another 8 on those topics. So again, I've been somewhat spoiled in the sense that I haven't had to go through the same kind of hoops and hurdles that a lot of people have. But I did get a very good education in publishing, traditional publishing, marketing, how the supply chain works, all the logistics of it. And by the time that I had my daughter, and I had already gotten pretty much tired of writing marketing and brand building books, when I started thinking that I could write a children's book, I wrote my first one, which was Ricky the Rock, and I brought it to Scholastic. And very, very quick story for those who don't know it. As it happened, at the time I still had my Pucker Mob website, and I was in the Prince building on Prince Street and Broadway in Manhattan on the 7th floor, and the offices right across from mine were for Scholastic. And they would tell everybody that those were the technical offices. And largely they would tell people that because they didn't want anybody barging in there and bothering them looking for publishers. But you're there for long enough, and you share elevators with people and hallways people, and you start realizing there probably aren't a lot of 80-year-old women who are there for tech purposes. You start realizing these guys have to be acquisitions editors. So one day I took my manuscript and I walked across the hall and I opened the door and I found a college kid and I said, get me an acquisitions editor, please. And they said, well, we don't have acquisitions editors here. I'm like, yes, you do. Just find me one, please. And she looked with kind of like deer in the headlights, didn't know what to do. And so she went and found one. Sat down with her. She read through my manuscript, ended up basically giving me a contract, which I looked at and recognized, now this is where the business side of this comes in, that I could do a lot better on my own by self-publishing. The numbers were exactly what you would expect the numbers to be for a first-time children's author. Even though I had a large following on Facebook through Pucker Mob, they weren't prepared to offer me anything more than they would offer anyone else who was there as a first-time author. And when I crunched the numbers, I recognized the only benefit that I was really going to get out of working with Scholastic was that I could say I was working with Scholastic. There is a certain ego aspect of that, which, you would love to be able to have a publisher like that. But what I'm interested in is growing a business, and I'm interested in the revenue aspects of it. And when I put the numbers together, I recognized I could do a lot better on my own. So I got out of Pucker Mob. I sold that off to another company, and I started focusing on not just writing, but the business of publishing. Anyone who knows me knows that my first book is Ricky the Rock That Couldn't Roll. This is the one that Scholastic had wanted to publish. So this is where I started. I had before I had talked to Scholastic, I did have a couple of agents who wouldn't look at it because it was a rhyming book, and they pretty much won't look at rhyming books from first-time authors. I understood why. I understand now, especially as I work with a lot of authors, I understand that rhyming is not something that comes easily to a lot of people. And I understand that agents and publishers don't have the time to read through 99 out of 100 manuscripts that are all lyrically written and that are just horribly lyrically written. So I started with this book, and a lot of people think, I'm very open and very transparent about when I talk about business and publishing. I share my earnings quite a bit. I'll share screenshots of my earnings from Amazon. That's not my only way of generating revenue, but that's the one I share the most because it's the dashboard that I have the easiest access to. So a lot of people all figure that I must be profitable by now. I mean, I'm doing $35,000, $40,000 in revenue per month, moving 4,000 books per month. So the assumption is clearly there must be a profit here. Well, I'm a year and a half into it. I am just now starting to put a little bit of money out of my publishing company for a profit, but for the most part, I have not made a profit yet. How is that possible? Because this first book, I took the profits of this book and I used them to create 2 more books. That means getting more illustrators for each book. That means having to do more printing, more shipping, more storage, and at the same time pouring more money back into Ricky for more books there. And again, doing more printing, more shipping, more marketing. My marketing has increased 15,000% in terms of the cost. So, but while at this point I haven't made any money, I did now at this point have 3 books. The Bear and the Fern is a success, along with Ricky. Beware the Nose-Biting Monster is a dismal failure. That's part of the business of publishing, is that we're not relying on any one book. If I had put out the Nose-Biting Monster first, it still would have been a dismal failure. And it's very possible I could have looked at the whole thing and said, okay, this is a failed venture, and moved on to do something else. I doubt I would, knowing myself. I wouldn't base a publishing company on any one book. I recognize I'm going to have more hits in the future, and I'm going to have more failures. Even Led Zeppelin had In Through the Outdoor or Coda. I mean, there's not every piece of content you're going to create is going to be content that is going to be sellable. The book here itself is not a bad book, but it's not sellable for a variety of reasons. However, again, these are 3 books now, so I should be profitable. But I've taken the profits from these 3 books, and I've now parlayed that into 5 more that are coming out. Which you see underneath here: The Masterpiece Molding of Clay, Test the Tin That Wanted to Rock, 3 Grumpy Rocks, and Patrick Picklebottom, and the Penny Book. And as these books come out, this time next year, we'll have 8 books out, if not more than that. And I'll parlay part of those profits into other things, whether it's plush toys or animations or more books. I'm not going to always keep all the profits. I'm going to put some of them aside, and I'll keep some of them for myself. But it's taken me a year and a half to get to the point where I can keep some of them for myself. I continue to parlay the profits into more books, so that later on, again, thinking about it as a business, I'm not interested in the revenue from one book. I'm interested in the revenue from a large number of books. This time next year, we'll have 8. This time the year after that, we should have 18. And we'll continue to go on and on. So let's look at the 2 paths that you can follow. Okay, and anybody who's been on any of the groups in Facebook today knows that the conversation has been largely dominated in a lot of these groups by a post that I put up this morning about my frustration when authors say that they are not writing for money, which, if you want to be a hobbyist, there's nothing wrong with that. Writing as a hobby is 100% legitimate, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I've got hobbies. Everyone has hobbies, and writing as a hobby is totally fine. If you were just writing for your ego, and I don't mean ego in a negative sense, there's nothing wrong with with looking at a book and saying, I want to see my name on the cover. I want to be able to tell my friends and family I've written a book. That's a great accomplishment. No matter what the scope of it is, writing something and having it printed and published is a good accomplishment. And if you're not interested in the money part, and you only want to be able to see your name on a cover and share that with your friends and family, or you just want to see your creativity get out there, or you want to see the smiles on happy readers' faces, you're an author. You're a hobbyist. Totally nothing wrong with that. The problem is when you are a hobbyist because you believe that you can't make money writing, because people have told you that you can't make money writing. People love to say that that's not something that's possible. But the second path you can follow is if you want to write because you want to make money from your books, and you want book writing to be your career, well, then you are no longer just an author. You are an author, but you're a lot more than that. And your mindset has to change. Your mindset has to recognize that you are also an entrepreneur. You're a publisher. You're a CEO. You're a CFO. You're a marketer. You're a salesperson. You're a numbers cruncher. You're a presenter. You're a market analyst. You have to be all of these things simultaneously. I got into advertising because I hated numbers. And I thought that advertising would be a great way to avoid numbers altogether, and I could just spend my day being creative. And that's so far from the truth. What I learned the most in my advertising days was that maybe 20% of my days were creative. The other 80% was all looking at numbers. It was all crunching databases and spreadsheets. And of the 20% that was creative, maybe 10% of that was creative that I really enjoyed. The rest of it was stuff that just needed to get done. That's part of what it is to run a business. You have to not only love being an author, you have to start learning to love being an entrepreneur, love running a business, love the strategy behind growing your business. Okay, that's the way you're going to make money in your writing. That's the way that you're going to look at this as a business. Okay, it is very possible to make money from writing and publishing your books. Okay, don't listen to what people say. I like to tell people that, people who tell you that you can't make money from writing books are typically the people who can't make money from writing books. There are a lot of failed authors out there who bring everyone else down by saying you can't make money by doing this. Simply because they haven't been able to doesn't mean that you can't do it. And it frustrates me beyond belief when I see authors saying that this is not an industry that you can make money in. Any industry is going to involve risk. It's going to involve investment. Most businesses fail, but the businesses that succeed take a little while before they're going to see a profit. But to think that you're not going to take it seriously as a money-making venture simply because a lot of other writers have failed is to say that nobody should ever open up a restaurant because other restaurants have failed. People open up restaurants, they open up bars, they open up companies, right? And yes, there is a good amount of failure, but there's also a good amount of success if you do things the right way. Okay, in order to make money in self-publishing, and I say self-publishing because, again, this is, in my opinion, your best chance of making a lucrative profit, which is, again, why I decided to say no to Scholastic and I went on my own. It's interesting. Most people in this industry seem to think that self-publishing is, the redheaded step cousin of traditional publishing. We only do self-publishing if we aren't good enough to get a traditional publisher, and I call bullshit on that. Anybody, and I'll use his name freely because I'm not saying anything about anybody that I wouldn't say to their face. Anybody who was with me on the webinar where Josh Funk was speaking, at the end of it, anyone who doesn't know Josh Funk is a best-selling author, traditionally published. He's written Lady Pancake and Served French Toast, the 3 books in that collection. He's written the Lost in the Library, How to Code a Sandcastle. I mean, some pretty big books. And at the end of the presentation, somebody asked him if this is now his career, if he makes all of his money by publishing books, or by writing books, because he's not actually publishing them. And he said, no, he's still a software engineer. He doesn't make enough money from his books in order to sustain his lifestyle. Looking at the room he was in, no one was thinking that this guy was Warren Buffett. I mean, he was in a what looked to be a standard upper middle class home office. But he said that he would need about 30 books on the shelves simultaneously before he could think about making enough money from writing just to sustain himself and be able to not have a day job. In the end, I'm basically making more money from 2 books, self-publishing, than he's making from 10 that he has on the shelf. And there's nothing wrong with it. He doesn't want to be in the business of books. He wants to just be in the writing, and that's fine. That's why he's chosen the traditional route. But if you really want a chance to make a lucrative profit, self-publishing is not the redheaded stepchild. Self-publishing is your best option for making a significant bundle of cash. Okay, so but you're gonna need more than just a good book. That's part of it. You need to have quality product, but you need a book that people want to read, not just a book that you want to write. There's a huge, huge difference there. It has to have mass appeal, or at the very least, it has to be directed at a niche that spends very freely. And there are a lot of niche markets out there. Okay, for example, but not all of them spend a lot of money. If you want to write, let's say I know that a lot of people want to write Christian books. That is, the Christian book market. That's a niche that spends a ton of money. If you publish anything that is geared towards a Christian market, that market will buy a lot of content. All right, that's a great niche. Otherwise, though, besides if you can't find the niche that's ready to spend, you need to have some mass appeal. You need to figure out what do the masses want, not necessarily just what you think is important. Okay, so for example, let's say that you're someone who is very much into a specific political cause. Let's say I'm not going to nobody ever has written this book, but let's say you're writing a legitimate children's book. Sammy the Socialist Takes on Capitalism. Okay, and I'm only writing that because it's so ridiculous of a title that no one's going to write that. you might think that that's an important topic for you to write about, and that everybody should want to read it, but not everybody's going to read it, which gets down to the next point here, which if you're writing a segment of a segment, you are going to lose your mass appeal. Okay, Sammy the socialist who battles the capitalism monster or whatever it is, you're losing everyone on the conservative side of the spectrum. Even the people on the liberal side of the spectrum, not everybody is going to feel that that extreme about it. You're marketing to a very, very small audience, even though in your mind you're thinking, wow, this everybody should read this because my points are so important. Well, it's because they're important to you does not mean they're important to everybody. Okay, and I think you need to recognize that as a business owner, you need to be able to step back from your books and recognize what messages you want to write are how those are coinciding with the messages in the books that the audience wants to read. Okay, you need to test market your book before you invest in it. And I'm not talking about giving your manuscript to mom and dad and your husband and wife and kids and relatives who are all going to tell you this is great, because they're going to lie. That's their job, is to lie to you. Nobody wants to give you bad news. And even if you are talking to people who don't really know you, when you hand them your manuscript and say, I wrote this book, could you tell me what you think? If they're in front of you, they are not going to give you the honest answer. What's better to do is to give a manuscript and say, a buddy of mine wrote this. Could you read it through and tell me what you think of it? Right? Because then maybe they might give you some real feedback. No one is going to tell you to your face that this book sucks. And you need to hear that. You need to know whether the book that you're looking to publish and invest in is going to be a good quality book. Everybody, I have so many people who tell me, well, I know my book is a good book. Okay, well, I haven't had an author yet tell me, I fully believe my book is mediocre. Because you wouldn't invest in it if that's what you believe. You believe your book is a good book. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what everyone else believes. And again, not the people who are going to lie to you about it. Okay, you have to invest in quality illustrations. Unless, of course, your book is a kitschy book that doesn't really, that has bad illustrations on purpose. For example, the book with no pictures by B.J. Novak, whatever it's called, doesn't have any illustrations. Okay, but I think there's still a pretty decent amount of typography that was probably someone probably spent some good time on. There are some books that are designed deliberately bad, but even that takes a good amount of talent. I mean, if you guys ever get a chance, look at lingscars.com. That is one of the worst designed websites on the planet. But it's brilliant in how awful it is. And it took a lot of design talent in order to design a site that awful. It's awful on purpose. But overall, that's probably not going to be likely what you're looking to do. You're probably looking to put out a fairly typical book that's going to be partially sold on the quality of illustrations. And time and again, I see authors who want to save money by cutting corners on the illustrators. They go to Fiverr. They go to a friend who maybe took an art class. Invest in quality illustrations. Your cover is going to sell your book, especially if you're selling on Amazon, where people are looking at your books in a thumbnail setting. The books need to be created in a certain way to jump off of a page with a lot of other covers on it. So those illustrations are super important. You need to research the industry. You need to understand the industry that you're getting in. And I don't mean going into one of the groups on Facebook and asking, kind of questions. I mean, read about the industry. Take advice from people who have had success and have proven they've had success. Read through Publishers Weekly. Read through some Nielsen reports, Statistica. Look online and find some real information about the publishing industry. Talk to people who've actually lived and breathed it, and have had some success in the past. But understand the industry that you're getting into. Understand all the different options, from traditional publishers to self-publishing to vanity publishers. Don't get caught in a vanity publishing sort of trap. And you won't get caught as long as you understand it first. Make sure you pick the path that makes the most sense for you. Understand all of your expenses in advance. Don't start rushing into this without understanding how much you're going to be spending on printing, on shipping, on storage and fulfillment, on marketing, and all the other line items that you need to know beforehand. One of the things that I find very interesting about the book publishing world is that for some reason an author gets an idea in their head, they write it, and then they feel they need to put that book out there immediately, as quick as possible, as though somebody is going to reach over their shoulder and steal it from in front of them. That's not going to happen. Your book is your book. The second you put pen to paper, you are technically copyrighted. Of course, you can't go to court any longer until for someone stealing it, until you have it copyrighted. Setting a copyright is not that big of a deal. You can do it. You can protect yourself. Don't rush your book because you have a passion for it. Don't rush your book to market before it's ready. Make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. Rushing it is only going to make you lose a significant amount of money. Okay, so more things that you need to know. You need to understand what the market will bear in terms of pricing your book. I see some people who rush into it. They put their book out on Ingram. Ingram is so expensive. The author has no choice but to price their hardcover book at $25 or $26 or $29 without understanding that their market's not going to bear a $29 children's book. It's simply not. Even if Amazon brings the cost down, Amazon typically brings the cost down from the standard average, which is $79.95 for a hardcover book. They'll bring it down to the mid-12s. Okay, so a $29 book is going to be brought down to the mid-21s. That book can't compete with a book that is $12 and change. Okay, so you have to understand what people are willing to pay. You have to make choices when it comes to printing your book that are going to keep your costs low and your profit margins high. Okay, the whole name of the game when we're looking at businesses is keeping as much money for yourself and giving as little of it back to printers or platforms or whatever else. You want to keep your costs low without sacrificing quality and keep that profit margin high. There's a finite amount of money that you're going to be able to make. If your book is $17.95, most places, whether it's Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever else, you're going to be looking at an average of 55 to 50% markdown on your book that you're going to get. So a $17.95 book is going to net you $8.08. Okay, from there, you have to take out your expenses. The most you could make, if your books were absolutely free, if you have an uncle who owns a print shop who'll print it for you for free, the most that you're going to make, if you do no marketing, the shipping, the other uncle works at UPS and all the shipping is free, the most you're going to make is $8.08. So whatever costs you have are coming from that. You want to keep as large of a block of that money as you possibly can. So make choices that are going to keep those costs low without sacrificing quality and your profit margin high. Okay, raise the money that you need in advance. Okay, and get additional funds just in case new unforeseen expenses come up, because new unforeseen expenses will always come up. Okay, things are always going to happen and you're not going to be prepared for it. For example, maybe you might have a really great month where all of your books are suddenly sold and sales are increasing at a breakneck pace. Suddenly you need to do a new printing before you get the money in from the first printing. You need to have that money in your account already. Don't be caught without enough money in your account to run your business. Determine your sales outlets. Yes, Amazon is an option. It is the best option. That's where people go to buy books. They own 50% of the book selling market. They own 5% of the whole overall retail market, online or offline. But there are other avenues, whether they are schools or street fairs, farmer markets, flea markets, book expos, book festivals, your local diners. Figure out where you're going to sell your books and do that in advance. What are your sales outlets going to be? Keep track of. Look for your opportunities in marketing. Set your strategies before your books go on sale. If you're going to use Amazon pay-per-click marketing services, understand how to use that before you put your book out there. It amazes me how many people will invest money in their books, put a bunch of money into printing, have them come back and say, guess what? Great news, everyone. My books are printed. Now, how do I market them? That's a question you should have been asking 3 or 4 months ago, not after your books are sitting in your garage collecting dust. You need to know that money, those answers in advance. Are you going to market them on Amazon? Are you going to market them on Facebook, on Instagram? How else are you going to get the word out there? What is your marketing budget going to be? How can you justify that budget based on your anticipated number of impressions and buy-through rates? All these things are things that you should be thinking about beforehand. You need to keep track of all your costs, your income, your inventory. You might need to change strategies as needed if you see that trends are changing. You need to properly manage your inventory so that you don't lose sales opportunities by running out of stock. Last year, I ran out of stock at Christmas. My whole December was basically lost. I made $13,000, $14,000 on a month that I should have made $60,000 to $80,000. If you look at Ricky the Rock right now, it's out of stock. I'm horrible when it comes to managing my own inventory. Just because I'm not good at it doesn't mean I don't know it should be done. So do better than I do. I've got 10,000 more books that just hit the warehouse. By the time they get to Amazon, it'll be at least next week and another couple of days for Amazon to put them into their system, which means that I'm going to lose a week's worth of revenue, which is about 10 grand's worth of revenue that I'll be losing. And that's because I simply didn't do a great job of managing my own inventory. Have a strategy to grow beyond a single book. Like I showed you before, I started with 1 book and that grew into 3 books, which will be growing into 8 books. And obviously beyond that, those 8 books, I have ideas for more books. And I'm already looking into how else can we expand these? Can I expand these out into plush toys, into some games, into sticker books? What are my other options? So always have those strategies for growth beyond that single book. And don't feel so emotionally invested in any one title that you can't recognize and accept that it's failed. We go back to what I was showing you before with my Nose-Biting Monster. I love that book. That book is probably more directly about my daughter than any book that I've written. And it's a dismal failure, and I can accept that. My feelings aren't hurt by it. It sucks. I wish it did better. I wish I was able to get my investment back. But you know what? It was a great educational experience for me. I understand that it's not going to work. I'm not going to continue putting good money in after bad, and invest in a book that's clearly not going to sell. But again, I'm not so emotionally tied into any of my content that while I love my books, I can accept the fact that that it's not working. A lot of people get so tied up into their books that they can't accept that it's failing. And because of that, they end up putting more money into marketing a book that simply won't sell. And so that's all I got for this presentation. I know we're already at 1:45, so this is the best I've ever done in terms of keeping on schedule for anything. I don't know if anyone has any questions that you want to ask. Now would be a good time.
Yep. Feel free to take yourself off of mute and go ahead and ask your questions. Thank you, Jay. This is perfect. We're right on schedule.
Great. My pleasure.
I had a question for the Christian market. What are some options that you recommend for a book that'll be in the Christian, be in the Christian area?
As a devout atheist with a Jewish background, I'm going to have a little bit of a harder time answering that. So I got to be honest with you. I really don't know. I try my best to get through each day without getting struck by lightning as it is. I don't know the best outlets for marketing to the Christian audience. I don't know the right keywords. I just know that if you do it the right way, that is an audience that will absorb a lot of content.
Okay.
I have a comment on that. If you go to christianbook.com and scroll all the way to the bottom, they have a self-publishing service to get your books on christianbook.com.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, I've looked into that multiple times.
Awesome.
It's a good place
Thank
to start
you.
anyway.
Jay, I have a question.
Sure.
This is Nick. I've published some books in the past, but I put zero marketing in them at all, and they've been in the millions in the rank. How do I know if they're really bad books, or they just haven't had the marketing behind them to know if they're any good?
Well, let me start off by showing you guys something here. You're still able to see my screen, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have brought down my marketing on Ricky considerably. I'm spending just a couple bucks a day now, where I would typically spend $300-400 a day on them. And for pretty much the entire year, Ricky has been. Let me open up one more screen. Go to Author Central. Ricky has been averaging about a rank of 600 or so. Now, if we look at it now, right? Let's look at this for the last month. Okay, it's consistently ranked between 598 or so and 700. We're typically at 600s. Right here is where I started running out of stock. I ran out of stock. It dropped down to 2137. Okay, I found 400 books lying around. I sent them to Amazon. They immediately got sold, and now my rank has dropped all the way down to 4163, which is where it is right now. That's partially because people come to the page and it says out of stock, and largely also because I'm not really running any advertising. My advertising will probably be done for the day in another 15 minutes because I'm only spending a couple bucks on it now. Do I think that the book is a bad book? Clearly not. That's how I'm making most all of my money. This fall in rank and fall in sales is a direct result of the fact that I am no longer in stock and I'm no longer doing any real aggressive marketing. So, I can't say for sure that your book would do better with marketing because I don't know what your book is. What I would say is that you should take your book, and the first thing I would do is I would bring the people who either don't know you or don't know that you wrote a book, and I would give it to them. And I would ask them what they think, an honest opinion, without them knowing that you did it, so that they feel comfortable saying that it's bad. And I think that's important. And we launched this Hatchet Mob thing a while back, and we've been doing a pretty steady run of people sending us in manuscripts And, 90% of the time, they all tell us that, everyone they know have told them that they love them. We'll have 5 people who are completely anonymous read through it. 90% of the time it comes back as, this is not a good book. Don't invest money in it. Here's how to change it. And we always get the authors coming back to us saying they're so, they don't want to hear that, but they're thankful that they got some real opinions. You need to get someone to look at your book that doesn't have a vested interest in being honest, in being dishonest to you. That doesn't worry about hurting your feelings. That I think is the place to start. Once you're confident that your book is a good book, then you can kind of go forward into marketing and feel better about it.
So can I add one second part to that? The hatchet mob you mentioned, I know you just started that up. When they give their honest opinion, do they give ways to fix it? Yeah,
they do. I mean, it's basically the first page is a synopsis of here's what we think and why. And then it's, okay, here's 3 things that we think are good. Here's 3 things that we think need to be improved. And then a kind of like more detail, here's what it needs to be fixed. So, we don't just come in, we don't just like say, okay, we're going to, we're going to tell you your book sucks and walk away. It's, okay, this is not a good book. And in some cases we've said, this is a great book. Don't change anything. This is great as it is. But most of the time, this book needs some serious help, and here's how to fix it. And then I think over time, once you start doing some marketing, you'll start to get a sense of whether or not the book is a book that a mass market wants to read. And again, looking at my book, the Nose Biting Monster, that is a good book. I am very confident that it's well written. Luis Perez did the illustrations, and he's one of the more outstanding illustrators that I've worked with. And he has had quite a bit of notoriety. You can't fault the illustrations for anything, but just because it's a good book with good illustrations doesn't mean that I didn't have to recognize it's not a book that people want to buy. Why was that? Because for one thing, it was I did the cover. I took pieces of his interior and created the cover myself. I did a bad job on the cover. Cover is not very good. The title is too long. The title is also terrible. It makes people feel that it's going to teach their kids to start biting noses, which nobody wants. They don't want to encourage bad behavior. It is also, and this is probably the largest thing, it is my story. Beware the Nose Biting Monster is a story about my daughter when she started teething and started biting my nose. And that's a game that she and I play. If you are a parent whose kid never bit their nose, that book means nothing to you. You don't want to read your kid a story about someone else's experience. It's one thing to read about rocks or foxes or birds or anything else like that. But when you start reading about humanoid characters and they are relating a story that has nothing to do with you and it's someone else's experience, you don't want to read that book to your kid. When I was running, and I learned this because when I was running Pucker Mob, I would tell the authors, we had hundreds and hundreds of bloggers that would write articles for us on a daily basis. And I would remind them constantly, we're not looking really for readability as much as we're looking for shareability. The idea was we wanted people to share the content. So, for example, and this is the example that I would always give, if they wanted to write, I remember the first day I saw my boyfriend, he walked through the door, and I thought he was the most beautiful guy I'd ever seen. Okay, now that is something that every girl who's reading Pucker Mob can relate to. Even if they never had that experience, it's generic enough that everyone's going to be able to say that they had that experience, even if they have to lie about it. That's a very shareable sort of piece of content. Now you take that same passage and you say, I remember the first day I saw my boyfriend, he walked through the door wearing, with his blonde hair covering most of his face and that blue flannel shirt that I came to love. Right. Well, that's a different story. Now you're getting so specific that that's your experience and no one else is going to share that. It might be readable, but it's not sharing. It's not shareable. And that's a big thing. Nobody else wants to share on their Facebook page someone else's life experience. So the Nose Biting Monster is my personal experience with my daughter. No one wants to share that with their kids. So that's one of the biggest reasons why that book failed.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Nick, I found, and I've mentioned this before, I have found that your best critics are children in the age group that you're targeting. And I've gotten much better feedback from kids than from adults because, like Jay said, you give an adult a book, they said, oh, isn't that sweet? But you give it to a child and they'll say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Why did you say this? So I think I would go back to a focus group of youngsters. And if you are really brave and you really want to be hit hard by these kids, if you can find a group through an elementary school, work with a media specialist like I did, and I could go into classrooms and read to the kids and have them help me plan the next book, I think I would say, listen, kids, I really need this help. This book isn't doing well. What's wrong with it? And listen to what they have to say, because they know what they're spot on and they're brutally honest.
All right, thank you.
Great feedback.
Jay, this is Misty. I'm just wondering why you decided to turn off your ads for Ricky the Rock.
For a couple of reasons. One is because nobody is going to buy a book that says out of stock, especially if it doesn't. It's one thing if Amazon says this book usually ships in 1 to 2 months. At least that's a time frame. Or if it says it's going to be back in stock April 10th or August 10th. Pardon me. Again, that's a time frame. Temporarily out of stock could be months. As far as the consumer is concerned, now they don't know that I've got 3,500 books currently on a truck on its way to Florence, New Jersey, to the Amazon facility. A user doesn't know that. They come to the page and all they see is they see out of stock, and this is who's gonna buy it when it says this. So why do I want to pay to drive people to my page for it to say temporarily out of stock, knowing that nine out of 10 people who see that aren't going to make a purchase? Okay. The other thing is that, again, my books are at the warehouse now. They are being loaded. They're probably at this point on the truck heading over to Florence, which means they won't get there till tomorrow, which means that Amazon won't actually have them in their system until probably at least next Thursday. And Amazon is a wonky kind of creature these days. A full week of them seeing ads that they're not making money on could potentially cause their computers to send me an email saying, we've turned your ads off because we're not making money on you. Remember, Amazon doesn't make money when someone buys the book. They make money when they ship the book. So I could have 1,000 people buying my book right now. Amazon's not going to make any money on them until the books are actually in and the credit cards are charged because the books are shipped out. So, and their computer systems are very careful to make sure they are only advertising books that they are they're making a profit from. And as of right now, Amazon's not making a profit on Ricky. And they look at it in 3-week periods. So it's not like they're going to look back and say, okay, well, you know what? We make a lot of money on Ricky over the rest of the year. No, as long as they haven't made money in the last few weeks, well, they're more likely to turn me off. So I've turned the ad dollars off significantly for both reasons.
Okay, got you.
Melanie, do you have a question for Jay as well?
I've been following Jay for about the last 1.5 years, so quite a long time, and I'm finally to the point that I'm ready to start illustrations. The thing that I guess the most concerned about is the Amazon Advantage program being suspended right now. I know I've been doing a lot of research. I know there's a lot of other avenues that I can sell in, but Amazon would definitely be the top one. Is there, besides the Advantage program, is there another section of Amazon that I could still sell with? Or, because I guess I was just a little too late and did not get an Amazon Advantage account set up before they shut that down.
So again, let's be careful. They haven't shut it down necessarily. They paused it. Now there's nothing saying that it's 100% going to come back, but there's no reason to believe at this point that it's not going to come back in some variation of what it was. Obviously, I think we'd all be, fairly naive to think it's going to come back exactly the way if it does come back, it's not going to come back exactly the way it was before. Most likely it's going to come back with some variation of what it used to be. And whether or not it's going to be as accessible if it does come back as it used to be, we don't know that either. We don't know really what Amazon is doing. A lot of this was all, kind of very sudden. However, like I said before, just because Amazon is no longer accepting people into the Advantage program right now doesn't mean that anybody should put their publishing dreams or aspirations on hold. It just means that this one platform, Amazon Advantage, is no longer as accessible or available as it used to be. Okay, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. Okay, because Amazon Advantage, in my opinion, was maybe a little bit too accessible, and a lot of people with just simply horrible ideas were able to get on there and potentially lose themselves a lot of money. What I would look into instead is look into Seller Central. It is a little more expensive, which again is not such a bad thing, because it forces you to take yourself a little more seriously. It's, instead of $99 a year, it is it's like $39 a month or whatever it comes out to. But nobody should be, if you're going to run a business that can't, that where $39 a month is going to give you pause, then you're not really ready to run a business, and businesses cost a lot more than that. So you look into Seller Central and you figure, you map out the costs. The costs are a little bit different. You might make slightly less on Amazon Seller Central than you would make on Advantage. So you work that into your pricing model. As of right now, from what I understand, even if you're using KDP, which is, I'm sorry, not KDP, FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, you as of right now probably still can't get onto Amazon Marketing Services. But okay, that sucks. But there are other ways to market yourself. Instagram, Pinterest, whatever it is. I would take your books, put them on Amazon Seller Central, and then find every other avenue possible to sell your books. I don't even think it's a bad idea to take some of the money that you're not spending on AMS right now and looking into some inexpensive local cable ads. Local cable spots are sometimes $15 for a 30-second spot. They don't have to be very expensive. There's a lot of other options out there. So I would just start to expand your mind, but still be on Amazon and be on Amazon using Seller Central until Advantage comes back in whatever form it comes back in.
Okay, that's the thing. I didn't even know about Seller Central. I'm just learning a ton about the different avenues, so that's good information. On Seller Central, am I able to also run ads on that on top of that 39, or does that kind of cover?
As of right now, no. You can't. They won't allow you to run ads for books through Seller Central. But now, let's just say that they decide to do away with Advantage altogether, right? They do need to. They are going to need to open up AMS to people. They make a lot of money through the advertising. They need to allow authors to advertise. Obviously, who gets access to what is still either up in the air or it just hasn't been implemented yet, and they're still doing tech behind it. But one way or the other, authors will once again have access to AMS. In the meantime, there are other ways of advertising. I don't find Facebook ads to be all that great, but I do find actually some benefits to advertising on Instagram. I find that to be actually pretty good. You can make a list of a ton of influencers. Reach out to them on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and if you're going to, instead of spending money on AMS, spend that money on paying influencers to talk about your book or do a live reading or whatever it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Shirley.
I could add one thing there, is that many of you are, do have the ability to go in and sign up for KDP. So when you have your account in KDP and you've got an ebook or a paperback through KDP, you do have access to ads through KDP, and you can promote those titles. If you happen to have an ebook or paperback, but you also have a hardcover that you're, doing in Seller Central or other things, even though you may not have the ability to connect ads to that specific hardcover, the fact that you're driving traffic to your ebook or to your paperback, the individual is also going to see, oh, this is also available in a hardcover. So if they wanted to purchase it, it is another way that you can drive ads. And I've been doing some of that with Bobby as well, Bobby's fairy books. And so for those that don't have Advantage or other abilities, which are more expanded. So the KDP version of ads is a little more limited. There's only a couple of different options. It's much more expansive if you get into Advantage, but there is ad abilities there. There's also something else I started experimenting with, and if there's any guinea pigs out there that want to help try this out, I have the ability as somebody who has Advantage, who I can manage ads for others. And there's a process I can request permission to represent your books through my account, and you would grant me permission. And then all of a sudden your books now appear in my dashboard to advertise through my Advantage and my AMS. So I've done it. I've set it up once. I got it working. And now since the Advantage changes have happened, I don't know if maybe it'll stop working. So I'm looking for somebody who wants to give it a try. And so there may still be an option for you out there to work with someone else to get some of the more extensive ad abilities as well.
Okay, thanks.
We are just about 5 after the hour. Do we have any other quick questions for Jay before we wrap up?
I have a question, April.
Sure, go ahead.
Here, I can start my video now that my baby's gone. What we were talking about yesterday about if you print through Ingram, then does Amazon discount your book even though you're printing through Ingram? The same way that like your Ricky the Rock, it's been discounted through Amazon. Will they do that if you print through Ingram or no, just through KDP?
So if you're if you're printing through Ingram, if you they discount Ricky the Rock and other books that are in Advantage because they're giving us a very flat rate for the books. They're going to give us 45% of the cover price. So my cover price is $17.95. Amazon knows they're going to pay me $8.08. At that point, they can price it whatever they want to price it, and those prices often change almost hourly. Now, being printed on Ingram doesn't necessarily tell me exactly how you're getting onto Amazon. If Ingram has, let's say, a Vendor Central account, and Vendor Central is not one that we talk about very often because Vendor Central is invite only, which none of us really have access to directly. Now, if Ingram has a Vendor Central account and that's how they're putting your book up on Amazon, Amazon will actually discount your book will discount books that are on through Vendor Central as well. Because again, they are going to pay instead of 45% of the cover price, they're going to pay 50% of the cover price. But they know exactly how much they're paying, and at that point they'll reduce the price there also. Where they won't reduce the price is if you're selling your book through Seller Central. Seller Central, this is basically you having your own store on Amazon, and you set the price. You can decide however much you want the book to sell for. So Ingram is just as far as the POD printing part of it, all we're really talking about is how the books are getting printed, not necessarily how the books are getting onto Amazon. If you put your books onto Amazon yourself through Advantage, then yes, they will discount the price. If you're getting the books on yourself through Seller Central, no, they won't discount it. If you're getting it on there through Ingram's Vendor Central account, then yes, they potentially could discount it there also.
Can I speak to that? I have books on Amazon, and I use Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark makes them available for sale on Amazon. I have my own author page and everything. All my books are listed on Amazon, and half of them are done through Ingram Spark. And they've discounted my books. One right now is selling for $7.95.
Thank you, Barbara. That's great. Good to know.
Probably my situation, well, good to know with Barbara too, but I would want to tap into maybe April's Advantage page. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
We can try it, right? It can't hurt to try. There's no reason. And and the way that, so with Bobby, she has access to Advantage already. So I started testing out that to see if I could get it to work under mine, which I could. But it was better for her to have all of this history in her own Advantage account because she has one. So if you already have Advantage, it might be better to have an advertising partner that's willing to log in and that you trust to log in and manage your ads versus having them go off and you never get to see it.
Are you still talking? We lost you, April.
Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like my connection comes and goes. It could be my internet. I apologize. So yeah, so there's a couple different things. Bobby and I, when we started looking at, and when she started looking for help with her ads, she already had an Advantage account. So I'm able to log in and, we have a trusting relationship. I'm not buying anything, having it shipped to my account, my house yet. Right, Bobby? So I log in and I do manage her ads, and I monitor them, and we meet, and I show her some of the reporting, and we strategize what to do next. If you go with this option of you being set up under my account, you won't be able to log in and check your own. So you would rely on me as that agency for you to meet with you, deliver reports, or just review how your ads are doing together. So it's just a different thing you should be aware of. But I'm glad to try it. With all this stuff going on with Advantage, I'd like to see if we can get some people going and actually produce some A+ pages, because you can do that as well. And for those that don't have Advantage, and also run some ads through Advantage.
Jay, I have another question.
Yep.
Sure.
If I don't have a hardcover book, but I do have access to Advantage, can I still market my KDP books there, or is that not even worth it?
Well, you're gonna make, if you have a softcover book from an offset printer, you're gonna make a larger margin on the softcover through the offset printer than you're gonna make on. I believe the quality should be better. So you're probably gonna want to market, if you have Advantage and you have a softcover version book through an offset printer, you're gonna want to market that one and not really market the softcover version through KDP.
Okay.
I mean, this is my opinion. I mean, I've seen the books that come off the KDP press. They're not bad, but they're not the quality that you're going to get from an offset printer.
Right. Any other final questions for Jay? Marian, I see wheels spinning. You and I have talked about so many things with your marketing and your books, and we've got big plans ahead. So is there anything that you can think of, or anything that you're thinking, looking down the line, that you're concerned with, or just need a better explanation on?
My brain is just so overwhelmed right now. So I'm thinking I'm going to have a lot of questions for Jay when I get there.
No problem.
I'll be here.
That's what, yes, you'll be hearing from me in probably about a month or two. That's when I'm going to gear up. Thanks.
Yeah. One of the things I'd like to do is give you the opportunity, Jay, to talk about the IAPC, why you formed it, and the services that provides to authors. And, how can they engage with you if they want to move forward and, do some printing through these great services that you made available for authors?
Sure. So for anyone who doesn't know, the IAPC, I try to use the initials because the name doesn't really matter as much anymore. The actual name is the Independent Authors Publishing Collective. And how this started off was that we had because of the my books were doing well, we had a lot of people wanting to try to emulate that, especially from the cost savings and the pricing standpoint. And I was explaining to people that we were printing them out in China and shipping them back to the US. But, the reality is that while the lowest prices you're going to get is by working directly with a printer in China and setting up the shipping yourself, most authors, there's a point where people feel a little bit uncomfortable. And while they're willing to wade into the waters of running their business as a business, printing with printers over in China and dealing with them and people who don't really speak English as a first language and are working while we're sleeping and sleeping while we're working, and then the overwhelmingly difficult logistics of getting books shipped back from China to the US and dealing with customs and brokers and ports and things like that. A lot of people wanted the prices from there, but they didn't want to have to deal with the logistics of it. So, there was Print Ninja, which is still around, and they're actually quite a good company. They've been around for a long time, and they pretty much will facilitate all the printing and shipping from China, but their prices are extremely high. They're not as high as, let's say, printing in the US, but they are much higher than printing in China. So we kind of recognize an opportunity here to help independent authors. And, I've always been an advocate of independent authors. And I try to jump in where I see authors going a bad direction in terms of working with the vanity press and all of that, and try to kind of pull them back from that as best I can. we saw an opportunity to be able to help a lot of authors maintain a decent profit margin while we took on the heavy lifting for them of working with the printers in China and shipping back the books to the US for them. And I often tell people that, it's great for your first, second, maybe even third book or third printing. Eventually, we're more of a stepping stone. Eventually, you'll figure out how to do the shipping yourself and how to do the printing yourself. And then you'll start to really make even more money. But the IAPC is basically there, and you can visit the site iapcbooks.com. The IAPC is basically there to help you take care of the shipping, the printing and the shipping for you. You send us your files, we take care of it. We will work with the printer to make sure everything is printed. If there's any sort of issues that come up, we're going to communicate them back to you. We will we'll let you know what the problems are, how to fix your files. It's almost any time that we go to print for the first time, there's always going to be issues. The second and third time it becomes a lot easier, but we'll communicate it back to you. We'll work with you, explain to you what needs to be done and changed. We get the no, that's not us. That's definitely not. We're at iapcbooks.com.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No problem. Once you send us your file, we get into the printers. Once everything is, the printer sends you back a physical copy. You look at the copy, you're happy with it, and at that point, the books get printed, and then we take care of the shipping for you. You tell us where you want it. If you want them to go to the warehouse that we're involved in, we can get them to go to that warehouse. If you want them to go to your home or any place else, you give us the address, we take care of it. You don't have to worry about customs. You don't have to worry about brokers, ports, feeder vessels, tariffs. We just let you know how much it's going to cost, and we get the books to wherever you want them to go. And that's basically it. We are basically the same as Print Ninja, but we are a lot cheaper.
And I notice here that there's a get an instant quote, so anybody can go in and have that immediate feedback on pricing, right?
Correct. And we have that now for hardcover and softcover. And at some point, we will update the site so that it can include board books as well.
Are you still offering the insurance program?
We're not. We actually found out that was illegal. We have to be licensed to offer insurance, and the paperwork for that is incredibly high. So we no longer offer that.
Okay. Well, this has been wonderful, Jay, and you're more than welcome to hang out with us and stay, but you can drop if you need to. I'm going to, for the rest of you that are our work group participants who want to stay and just get some extra help, we'll cover some Q&A that's outside of just what Jay represented today. So hang out if you'd like. And Jay, thank you so much. This was one of the best presentations we've had this year. Lots of great questions and great information.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Jay.
All right. So who do we have left? I did see that we had some back and forth in the questions in the group chat. I saw it sounds like we've got maybe one or two people that have some additional ideas on Christian publishing, or should I say marketing. That was a question that was brought up earlier. So do we still have Michelle?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Michelle. So
hi.
We would love to have your thoughts and whatever experience you have around Christian marketing.
Okay. I can't quite get my video to work at the moment, so
it's okay.
I don't know much about it. Like I researched it a little bit. I'm working on a very large Bible story, like anthology, almost like a Sunday school curriculum, but in story form.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of done a lot of research into that. But yeah, if you go to christianbook.com, that's where, if it's even remotely religious, you can probably find it on that website. And I've looked, they've got if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, they've got like a self-publishing thing where you can kind of reach out to different Christian publishers and Christian marketers, and as a way to get your book on the website. I'm trying to see if I can see it down there. I had to look for it.
So this is a company that offers a service?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is it's really just a marketing place. But under services, it says self-publishing, and that's a way to get your book on there anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a little bit of off-putting when somebody says that they're going to charge me to self-publish. So I'd have to dig in further to know, to know whether it's something I would endorse for sure from my perspective. I do know that a lot of the techniques that Lida talked about, as far as, you have specific topics and things that are your why and your reason. And so if you use the techniques that she has on searching for those on the types of media marketing that she showed us, then I'm sure it will drive us to the individuals who write those Christian articles and do Christian book reviews and things like that. So a lot of what she showed us will definitely apply to Christian books. And I think what I would like to do, and I'll follow up and post some links in today's thread as well on our message board. What I know that Lida and our other speaker, Kate Steed, they both have a lot of experience in marketing. So I want to see if they have any connections or any advice for us if our book is Christian related. And I'm positive that Lida has clients who have Christian books. So I think she'll have some good options for us and some advice. And I'm glad to follow up with her and post more of that as well. So does anyone have anything else that you guys would like to talk about specifically on your book? I can also throw a couple of topics out. I have a Facebook trick that will teach you how to get a bunch of Facebook likes on your for you to help build your following in Facebook. Right now, if you look at my Facebook page, let me just go there real quick. I think I have like 25,000 or 23,000 likes on my Facebook fan page. So if you're interested, I can show you how to do it. It's a trick that I learned through another class, and I know people have said they'd like to see it. Anything else? I've also been working with a couple of authors here to dig further into advertising and keywords and categories. So I did record an earlier session with Misty. She agreed to be my guinea pig on just me testing out how I can do, just developing a whole bunch of keywords using these new tools, Helium 10, and also Publisher Rocket. And we have a couple more tools that we use to identify categories and identify keywords. So I did record that session, and I will make it available. We recorded that, I think it was yesterday, right, Misty? You and I had spent a lot of time yesterday. So yeah. I did record a portion of that would help you guys understand how I do pull and find more keywords. And now I think we're at a point where Misty actually has her keywords pretty much ready to go as soon as her illustrations are done. So it's a good thing to get started and learn more about. And I'm glad to answer questions or jump into some of that. Although there's a lot of, there is a recording of a lot of the information as well. So I'll probably would touch on it at a surface level.
April?
Yep.
I have a question. For some reason, it's not letting me show my video. So if we have our actual book written yet, then how do we start like a website, for example, or a Facebook page if, we're at the very, very beginning stage? So how do we get that audience growing when we don't have a tangible product?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I have a really good answer for it. So that's a good thing.
All right.
I've heard this before. There are a number of people who don't feel comfortable yet putting their websites together. the good news is when you're ready to do a website, you can make it as simple as a few pages with an easy website platform that's kind of like a, I would say like a wizard type environment where you answer some questions, you pick your design, and you get a website. If you need help with it, set up one-on-one with me, and I'm even happy to walk you through the wizard so we can get something set up for you. However, you do not need a website to be able to start collecting email addresses. A couple of options that are really good options. If you have an email provider like MailChimp, and I know that there's at least 3 others that compete with MailChimp that are maybe even cheaper, that offer the same service. MailChimp, you're going to create an account, and when you first you create that account, it's a free account. They don't start charging you, I believe, until you get to a certain number of contacts, and then they start asking you to pay for that, for their services. What MailChimp, so let's just say, number one, I create an account in MailChimp. One thing they provide you now is a place to house all of your contacts. How do you collect them? Number one, they give you free landing pages. So you can set up a landing page, and I'll show you an example of a landing page. I may have, I'm sure I've shown it multiple other times, but let me go to my site. And here is, when I say landing page, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Because I want to get as many new email addresses, I've made that a real big priority, is increasing my reach, my fan base. I put this, now you can see this is not a web page that I can click a bunch of things. It's very, even though I've created it on my website, I took off all links other than the one thing here that they can do, which is enter their email address and submit. And what I'm telling them here is that here's a little video intro about my book. You can get this book free. You get an ebook. And all you have to do is sign up for my email address, and I will give them a link to download my ebook. And so I have ebooks as part of setting up my print books and my ebooks online on Kindle. I have that format. So I put that on a Dropbox. So when they sign up, I've got automations that happen right on MailChimp. Now you can get very simple, or you can get very complex. The more you grow your knowledge there. So a very simple implementation would be, I create something like this. You don't even need a trailer if you don't want to. That just says, I've got this special thing for you. Sign up for my email, for my mailing list. Now, when somebody clicks submit, you have to tie it to what do you want it to do. So the interface that MailChimp gives you will let you tell it what to do. Send people to this mailing list, and here's where we want you to send them as a thank you page. And you don't have to have it on your website. You can have a thank you page as another landing page from MailChimp, or you can just put a thank you message, and it will show the thank you message, and that's that. So it could be that simple. You can also use MailChimp to get fancy. For example, you can do some automations. So I'll share with you what I do with mine. And if you want to check it out, I would love it if you signed up for mine and tell me what you think about the emails that come to you after you sign up.
Okay.
So the first one, and this is the way that I've set it up, but I haven't gotten anybody telling me that, yeah, this works exactly the way you set it up. So it'd be a great test for me. So the first day, you're going to, first you'll get an email with the download link so that you can go download the book. I think it's day 2 or day 3. I say, hello, it was really nice meeting you. I hope you're enjoying your download. By the way, I have another little freebie for you. Here you go. Here's a link. Download it. So I want people to get excited about, oh, there's another email from April. I wonder what she's got there. So I want to build trust and a rapport for them. So I give them a link to a coloring book that they can download, a digital copy of it. I also do like just some get to know you emails that follow. So I would call it an email string, or yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's a better term to use, but I set, day 1, this happens, day 3, this happens, day 5, day 7, day 10, and then it drops off. So it gives me an opportunity to build and maybe send them a newsletter, a recent newsletter, give them a special coupon that they can use to purchase my print books. So you can get fancy is what I'm saying, but I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, because you can also keep it very simple. And I know that there are a number of you that might look at this and say, well, I don't have a book yet to give away. What I did when I first started is I set up an email capture, and I talked about my journey. I blogged, I blogged about my journey and just said, hey, if anybody wants to follow along, I'm a brand new author. This is why I'm writing this children's book. If you're interested in following me and my journey, just sign up. And you're going to have family, friends, colleagues, relatives that are going to do that for you. And as you write little emails to them, or you just post to your blog, and if they've signed up for your blog, you can ask them to share. Hey, will you share my post? And you can also do something like giveaways. So there's another, so you can get traffic because you've cultivated it using this kind of a form, an opt-in form. Another way of getting email addresses so that you have a really good list of people is to do a giveaway. And there are, you'll see a lot of things going on. There's Christmas in July promotion going on right now. And I can go right to I'll show you an example of, and there's a great tool. And again, I'm always looking for free tools, right? Because free is for me when it comes to, being an author that doesn't have a lot of money to spend, and the money that you do have, you want to spend on illustrations and things that are really going to make a great impact. So this is a Christmas in July promotion. We partner there's a lot of authors, as you can tell. This ended up mushrooming into much bigger than we had originally anticipated, with a ton of people with Christmas books wanting to get in on this Christmas in July giveaway. So there's a tool called King Sumo. One of the authors is really good at setting up a graphic, so she created this graphic for us to use. But the tool itself is called King Sumo, and because I've already logged in once before and given them my email address, now every time I'm clicking on it, it's more like, hey, you get another entry because you came and visited us again. But it's not asking me for my email address again. But this is what the tool does. You just go to kingsumo.com, you sign up and create your own giveaway, and then you can enable additional ways for them to get entries in your giveaway. Sharing on Twitter, share on Facebook, like on Facebook, all these things. And what this tool does is makes it really easy. So one of the things that you can get 2 extra entries is by visiting any of the authors' websites. So let's just see what happens. I'm going to click and I'm going to go off to this website. But when I close out on it, I'm back. It's checked me off. And I can just go down the list and do, hey, I'm going to follow Little Labradoodle on Instagram. I don't need to do that. That's me. Visit Lisa Caprelli's website. So you can, as authors, you can say, what do we want people to focus on so that they can get a bunch of extra entries? The tool will also allow you to pick a winner. So when the giveaway is over, press a button and it'll generate who the winner is. So it collects email addresses for you. It focuses people. In this instance, the authors that got together wanted to promote their books, so they each put up a book. And then, so the individual that's winning is going to get a whole bunch of books. We're also going to get their email addresses. So we are going to make sure that every single person that entered is going to, I'm going to put a newsletter, an email together that gives them links where they can download, like they'll get my free book. Anybody else who has a free ebook. So they're all going to win something. They'll get an email from us with like, hey, here's 10 different ebooks you can download. Here's coupons. Here's this, here's that, just because you entered our giveaway. So again, one person's going to be really happy with all the books, and others will get a bunch of free stuff anyway. So they'll be very engaged, and they'll see the faces, the book, titles, perhaps get some coupons to go print some of the, or to get a better deal on the books. And I think it's a really awesome way to drive traffic. Giving away books, I would say, is an okay response to it. Like for this 15 books together, right now I think we're around, I want to say 600, maybe, I think around 600 emails so far. And it ends in a couple of days. So if you're interested in clicking on it and checking it out, go ahead and test. You can interact with the tool and see what your experience would be using the tool for others. Now, what I have learned works much better is if you have a higher value item. So not just books, but if one of the classes that I took, he actually steps through like the formula for the best possible giveaway. And it's get a Kindle Paperwhite or a Fire tablet. And if you've got, just say you've got three, say there's 4 authors. You don't want too many all at once, but say 4 authors are going to get together and they're going to give a Amazon kids tablet, because we have children's books, right? We're going to load it with our ebooks, and we're going to maybe add a $50 Amazon gift card. Well, for that, it's probably maybe a $150 investment split between 4 people, and you are very likely to then end up with 1,500, 2,000 or more email addresses. I think, do I still have Rita on the line? Rita is somebody who has done that. Yeah, I think Rita's still here. I'm going to unmute Rita. Okay, Rita, can you still hear me?
Yes, I've done it twice. And
You've
actually,
done it twice.
The 3rd time with you.
So I know I've been talking for a long time. Would you mind sharing your experience with that type of giveaway?
The both times I did it, it was with a lady named Susan Fay, I think her name is, that ran it. And she's not even a picture book author. She's a teenage YA author. But I knew her through another group, and she said, "You want to get in?" And I said, "Yes." And it was like I was the only picture book person. I knew absolutely nothing. She did the whole thing. She ran it through the King Sumo, which is the software.
Yep.
And then we all chipped in and got a Kindle Fire. But it didn't cost that much because there was like 10 of us. And that time we got 2,000 people. And
2,000 emails.
2,000 emails.
Yeah.
And so then about a year later, another YA author did it again, and I got piggybacked in on them too. And I got another 2,000. And then I think it was you or somebody else did one, maybe it was me, but we ran one that was only picture books. Barb Renner was in on that one. Remember Barb? Mm-hmm. And on that one, we only got 600 or 700. And interestingly enough, when I added them into my MailChimp, I'm not using MailChimp, I'm using a cheaper one called Wix. It works the same way. Mm-hmm. They said, okay, I think they said you got 400 people. And I went, whoa, wait a second. I thought it was 600. And then I looked, like about 200 of them had already been in the previous 2. So then when I tried to re-enter their email addresses, Wix wouldn't take them because you can't have two.
Right.
So Wix said, okay, fine, you got, out of the maybe 500 or 600 people who signed up, you got 400 that are brand new people. The rest are, forget them. So I ended up with, and then of course over the years, it's been now maybe a couple of years, I've had that, maybe 2 years. Every time I send out a newsletter, I get 30 or 40 people that say, no, get me out of here, or what do you call it, disenroll. And those are the same people who actually did sign up. So I never bought anybody or forced anybody or stole anybody or even signed anybody up without their knowledge. I've never done any of that. Everybody on my list, I either met them personally at a book fair and they physically signed up on an index card, or they did one of these giveaways. I never bought anybody. Still, you're going to get 20 or 30 that say, what the heck, get me out of here, at every newsletter. But then, in theory, there's the rest of the 2,000 people are going to tell their friends, and in theory, you get 20 or more that say, hey, I'm in.
Yeah, so it's worth it. April, I have another quick question. Is there a reason that you advertise your website and your social media under your publishing name, which is the little labradoodle, versus April Cox author?
Yeah, I feel like the brand for me is really my publishing company. It's not, I know Lyda said differently, and I do have a strategy session with Lyda, so she may change my mind. But when I started it, I felt like, yes, I'm an author, but I was relatively a new author, and what I really wanted, and my passion is the business around creating these amazing books and helping other authors to create these amazing books. So I felt like if I use my just author name, there's a big piece of the business and my brand that's not there.
I keep struggling which way to go. I keep going back and forth, and I look at other authors, and like Jay, he seems to go with his page press, but then there are some that just strictly go by their author name, and I kind of don't know which way to go. And I'm wanting to start, this whole journey and setting up my website and setting up my brand, but I need to make that decision first, of course. And I keep having kind of mixed feelings about it.
Yeah. And there's no reason why you can't do both, or, it's really a personal decision on what is your brand. Is it you, the author, that has like a special why, and you're going to, do articles, press releases, put a press kit together to get you, the brand, in front of news outlets, television, and through you, the brand, you're going to sell your books, you're going to, go on speaking engagements, you're going to keep releasing books, you're going to want people to get to know you. If that is you, if that's your brand, then maybe the focus really needs to be on you. If your press and all the, if you have a bunch of different services like Jay, think about, he's kind of in a similar situation as me. He has this press, he's got, the IAPC that he put together. So his brand is more about not just him, but all the different things that he does for authors and, different things services that he provides.
Yeah, my background is early childhood education. I've been a preschool teacher for 20 years. So I feel like it might be me that's what people are going to want in terms of my knowledge and my background with preschoolers. And then my books are going to be a little bit curriculum based. They're going to be more educational versus a traditional story. So, and I'm going to be giving away curriculum type items, maybe for free, like an activity to go with the story.
Right.
So maybe my author name is a better way to go. But again, I keep going back and forth.
It sounds to me like you're the brand by what you're saying. It's you, the author, former teacher, somebody that will attract a lot of other educators looking for curriculums and interesting books. So I think that's part of, I think you're right, that brand is probably more what you need to do.
Basically say no.
And then I feel also with my last name being a little unique, being welcome, I think it'll be easy to remember.
This guy physically.
Yes. I'm hearing some background noise, so if you don't need to be talking, I'm just going to mute the guys that are out there. Hello. Hi, if anybody's talking and you're not on mute, can you go ahead and just mute yourself? I'm just gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? Just a mute all. Do mute all, and you can unmute yourself, and go ahead and share. But I just had to turn off the background noise.
April, I wanted to just speak to that branding. I'm actually doing both. So I have some branding in my name, and I have some branding with my company, and I'm actually just starting to do some branding with Scarecrow Adventures. I had to move away from Scarecrow Tales. It was taken in everything except for like one place, which is the domain name I have, and someone came in and took Scarecrow Tales, and they're using it for scary stories and podcasts, and they have Facebook and Instagram, and I don't know if they have Pinterest. They have everything taken.
Wow.
So note to everyone, if you have an idea for branding, go and grab the names now, even if you're not using them.
And you mean the domain names, but are there other things also?
No, I don't mean domain names. I have the domain name scarecrowtales.com. However, somebody else came in and went and got the Facebook name. That I thought that if I set up a page, I automatically got the username. Nope, didn't happen. So even though my page was set up before them, they got the username Scarecrow Tales on Facebook. They got the username on Instagram. They got the username on Pinterest. So if you have an idea, go and grab your name, even if you're not going to be using the account, or someone could come along. Yeah, so I have to change. I changed it to Scarecrow Adventures, which might be better in the long run. But that's what I had to do. So I'm branding on multiple different levels. Somebody had said, if you're going to be doing multiple things, which I'm going to be doing in different genres, that I need to make sure that I have branding in my own name, because people are going to want to find me, and that's a place to put me. So I do have a Facebook page in my name. I have a Facebook page in my business, All Things Harvest, and now I have a Facebook page for Scarecrow Adventures. I want to say Scarecrow Tales, but
right.
Could I weigh in on that as well?
Sure, go ahead.
Just to Lisa's question, when I was trying to decide, I'm Jenny Lee Learn, and when I started with my books, I was just branding my own name, and my books are written with one page for adults to read and simpler text for kids to read, so my last name obviously works really well with that. However, I found, even though I was having good sales at the beginning, I found that I was taken more seriously when I switched over to Amabel Books. I started an imprint, and Amabel's the township that I live in, so Amabel Books was an easy choice. And when somebody looks at my books now, there isn't there isn't anything about my books that makes them look independently published, and I hope someday that independently published books will be held at the same standard as traditionally published books, but I don't think we're quite there yet. And I think that picking a brand that isn't your own name, there's nothing about my books when they look at Amabel Books, even though I am a small imprint, small publishing house, there isn't anything about looking at them that doesn't tell someone that they would be a traditionally published book. So that's something to consider when you're thinking about whether to brand your name or not. It's also something to consider if you're considering ever publishing anybody else's books in the future, or having other products under your name. So that's something I did start out with just my name, and I have switched, and I still use both, obviously, but yeah, Amabel Books is what I'm starting to push now. It's very new, but I'm starting to push Amabel Books.
So Jenny, do you what's your website? Do you have it under your author name or
Right now, but it's all sort of, that's funny that you asked that because I was thinking about that as we were talking today, but my website is jennyleelearn.com. I did start a website, amabelbooks.com as well. I have another business as well. I do custom framing, and I've got kind of everything merged, and one of my projects in the next month or two is to create a strong author page and sort of separate it from my other business. So that's something that's in the works, but it will be Amabel Books, but also I will have Jenny Lee Learn listed under Amabel Books as one of the authors. That it'll appear as if I am an author published by Amabel Books, which is true, but it's only just me.
Right. And just one comment, I am a little bit of a geek. You could probably see in my imaginary propeller that spins when we talk about IT stuff. So I'll just give you a little bit of knowledge around domain names. So if I have www.aprilcox.com, and I also have www.thelittleLabradoodle.com or Little Labradoodle Publishing, I can point both of those domains to my website. Now, if aprilcox.com goes to the page within the website that is April as a published author in Little Labradoodle Publishing, then just as Jenny mentioned, I can still, have everything go to one website. It's not like you need to create two websites. You just need to think, if they're coming in looking for me, aprilcox.com, where in the website would I want them to go to? And then they still have access to, the business site as well.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So can I get some advice on that from some of you?
Sure.
I've had the same issue and it's been going on for a while. It's driving me crazy. So I started my LLC and I just used my name, Misty Black Media, because I needed to get it started and it was holding me back, and I just picked a name. I just used my name and then media on the end. But like Jenny, I want to be taken a little more seriously. So I also bought that domain too. Then I bought a domain, Berry Patch Press, to name my publishing company. And so I am trying to decide if as an author, if people are putting in my name, if Misty Black Media will still work for that, or because Misty Black was taken, mistyblack.com was taken, just by one of those companies that charges you like $2,000 to buy it. So it's not like somebody else is using it. It's just not available. So do you think Misty Black Media is okay for that? Or would you maybe do a Misty A Black, or even Misty Black Books might be better? I just wanted some opinions on that.
Another thing that I was just thinking about right now, and to partly answer your question, Misty, when you think of authors, Eric Carle is one of my all-time favorite authors. Dr. Seuss, like you think of their name. You don't think of their publishing company. And even like April Cox, if I was going to read your book to my child and I really loved it and I was thinking, oh, I want more books by April Cox, I'm going to look at the author's name. Oh, I want to research April Cox. I'm not going to think about Labradoodle Publishing or, the publishing company. I'm going to think of the author. Mm-hmm. So that is something to consider also. So Misty, to answer your question, I think I would go back to maybe I answered my own question too. And I think I would maybe go back to, your name. And if you're going to use your middle initial, just make that be your brand, and then use that, when you write your books, that you put that middle initial. So then when people search,
However, I was hoping to avoid the middle initial because I know it gets skipped over quite a bit, but I don't know what my other choices are, just because Misty Black was taken, unless I just stick with the Misty Black Media. But
you could also use like Misty -Black. So the hyphen is a nice way to introduce, or an underscore, but Misty -Black is not terrible. And one of the things that I mentioned to you, Misty, when we were talking about this, and for other people to think about as well, when you print on your inside, on your copyright page, it's going to say printed by, or your imprint name will be there. So in the case that Misty was sharing, the Misty Black Media, when I was just telling her, if I'm looking at it and I'm one of those bookstores that's very biased from self-published authors, it's obviously self-published.
That's
So,
a good point.
Well,
so-
that's why I got Berry Patch Press, and I'm going
Right.
to add it as a doing business as on my LLC.
Yeah, Berry Patch is cute. That's really cute.
That
Oh,
is.
thank you. It took me so long to think of it. So
It's
thank
lovely.
you.
It's really cute. Can I say something about but now let's think about some other ways in which people look for books, and my business model is actually American Girl and Elf on the Shelf. They're not Googling those authors' names. They're Googling the brand. So, and then also if you have Berenstain Bears, you'll Google or Frog and Toad. You're Googling Frog and Toad, and you're Googling Berenstain Bears, or you're Googling Harry Potter. So you can build your brand. People will look for branded books or branded companies once you build enough synergy.
Okay.
That is true too. But isn't that more like the character, and like if they're doing a series of books like Berenstain Bears or Elf on the Shelf, it's
Elf on the Shelf was the publishing company is a different name, but that's not the author's name. American Girl was actually how they started was Elf on the Shelf and American Girl. They grew into series. Elf on the Shelf didn't even have a series in their when they started. Series came later.
right. It was first the plush, the doll, right?
It was first the book and the doll. Elf on the Shelf came out as a book and a doll, a book and a doll, and they came out as Elf on a Shelf. That was their branding.
That's a good point.
If that's the case, and I totally agree with that, do you have to have a different website for each one of your series, or can you do like an SEO where somebody types that in and it takes them to publish
Like
it?
April said, yes, you can point it all. You can point it all to the one place.
Well, as far as my name goes, though, do I have to have a website that has my name on it, or can people find me and then have a page that goes to the publisher? I just don't know how.
April, I mean, April, you might have a better answer for this, but here's all I can think of is that creating a one-page landing page for just your author page is all you really need.
Yeah.
You don't need a big fancy web page. You just need a presence. Is that you agree with me, April?
I do. Yeah, I do agree.
And
then a separate presence, but you need a presence. So yeah.
And then sort of manage them separately. So have the publisher page be where all of the branding of the book series goes, but then the author page be a landing page to collect emails, or is that what you mean?
No, I mean that if people want to go find you, well, you can do both on both. But if people want to find you, if they want to Google your name and they want to be able to find you, if they don't find you on the internet, they're going to say, "Who is she?" Mm-hmm. And they're going to say, "Well, she mustn't be very serious because I can't find her." So I think you need to be able to be found.
So that's my question: is can they find me without me having a Misty Black website? Can they find me by typing in my name and it takes them to Berry Patch Press?
It could, but it's not going to give you the exposure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Marion, back to your comment about your examples.
Yeah.
So again, I keep going back and forth, and I'm trying to understand all this. The examples you gave, the Elf on the Shelf, the Berenstain Bears, so those are brands that were more like individual. Like the Berenstain Bears was that collection of books. Mm-hmm. So that author, did he or she only write that collection of books? And like, did the American Girl doll, did they only write American Girl doll?
You know, the American Girl company, she started and she expanded into something totally different. But if you Google her, all her branding was done through American Girl. And then she now that American Girl, of course, has been sold to Mattel, and there's multiple different authors in there.
Yeah.
She was originally a textbook writer. And Elf on the Shelf, like I said, they started as Elf on the Shelf. You will not find that author of Elf on the Shelf. I mean, I don't even know if they have a landing page. I never looked. I'd have to look, but I don't think people are not Googling their name to find Elf on the Shelf. Berenstain Bears, they probably have both. I haven't done the research. That's a good question. So we should Google Berenstain Bears, and then we should also Google the author's name and then see what they did. That would be a really good thing to do, to find out, to do a little bit more research. And I'm thinking of all the other series titles that people think of the series titles. The kids aren't asking for the author. They're asking for the like Frog and Toad. Who wrote it? I have no idea, but I know Frog and Toad, and I know I love the series.
But like in terms of like Dr. Seuss or Eric Carle, those are the authors that people seek out, those particular authors, not necessarily every book that they wrote.
But Berenstain Bears is a bad example because that's actually the author's names.
Oh, the author's name is Berenstain Bear?
Yeah.
No, it's
Berenstain.
Stan and Jan.
Yeah, but Berenstain, but his name is not Bear. Yeah, right. But Berenstain. Okay, so
Berenstain is their last name.
Right, but what are they putting their website under? Their name, even though it's their last name?
It really doesn't matter because the book and their author's names are both Berenstain.
Okay,
so.
I see what you're saying as far as driving traffic, but I get that. Okay, so I mean, I'm just pulling them off the top of my head. So I saw a list in the other book like Frog and Toad. I mean, I don't know. I haven't done the research. So all I can tell you is that I'm looking at the two brands. They are self-published. Elf on the Shelf and American Girl both started as self-publishing. Look at where they are. They didn't brand on their name. And that's not to say not to brand on your name. I think you have to have your name as a presence. But I also think that people sometimes respond to a brand when you're unknown before they respond to your name.
Right.
So I think you need to be doing both simultaneously. But you need to put more effort into one. So have a presence as your name if you're gonna market your brand, and if you're gonna market your name, you still have to have presence of your brand if you are a separate brand. If you have a separate brand, I have a separate brand, and I think I pulled this from when I was in real estate. Okay, so in real estate, I was in Keller Williams, and I have my name, Marion Bovary. And I have to market myself as Marion Bovary, but guess what people are looking for? They're looking for Keller Williams. So that's where I get this from. You had to live in both worlds. So you had to brand yourself. I had to brand myself as a Keller Williams agent because they weren't going to come to Marion Bovary because they didn't know me. And then once they started to know me, then they're coming to Marion Bovary, and the Keller Williams doesn't matter as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting this from. I literally have that's kind of how it's done in some other businesses in realms. And like I said, Elf on the Shelf, American Girl, self-published. Now, American Girl, she had like $1 million to start her company, but Elf on the Shelf, they probably started with about $50,000. And they both were multi-million-dollar companies within 3 years.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, can I put in melaniehawkins.com as a domain and then link that with my Inspire Joy Publishing as well?
Yes.
You can.
Absolutely.
End up in the same landing page, but in maybe different sections when they type those.
Yep, it could be.
Good. You can have the same website as April said. You just need a page, one page for your name, so that if somebody wants to find you, you can do that, and then they can click through if they're on that page.
Is there someone that can help me set that up, because I am not very tech savvy?
Yeah.
Who would
All you have to do is look at my imaginary propeller and know that I'm here for you if you need help with whether it's setting up your website or going through a very simple website so that you can eventually manage it yourself, or if you're looking for somebody to help you manage that, I can do it. Or if you just want somebody to set up the landing page through and the MailChimp, I can do that as well. And what I'll say is, I'm not all about charging people for everything. So if you just want to set up a one-on-one and say, hey, let's just go through the wizard process and help me set up my website with our time together, I have no problem doing that too. So some people are very hands-off. Please just do it for me and then let me know when it's done. And other people want a little help and to know how to do it themselves. And then there's people that are in between. They want a little bit of both. So I'll customize it. And if it's, any additional cost, I'll send you an estimate based on just a brief conversation together, and you can decide what the best approach is. I'll usually give you a few different options.
Going back to the, branding, I just looked up Amelia Padilla, and it's branded under Amelia Padilla Books. And then it says, when you go to the page, it says meet the author. And then if I Google the author's name, I get her name and then Amelia Bedelia Books. And so it all goes to the Amelia Bedelia Books. So there's an example where the author's last name is different. So it's Peggy Parrish, and then, and I think there's another Parrish in there, and then Amelia Bedelia Books. And of course it's a traditional publisher's print. And if you go to HarperCollins, I think it was, that's your first find on when you Google search, but your second one or third, well, Wikipedia, but then you go and you go to Amelia Bedelia, and it's Amelia Bedelia Books, and there's a little section on there that says meet the author. So now you have the publishing house, and then you have the brand, and then you can find the author that way.
And a lot of people are going to be looking, if there's a huge market with Amazon, people going to Amazon looking for books. And I don't know about you guys, but I follow authors that I really like, so that when they post something or release a new book, I get notified. So just remember to make sure that your author profile on Amazon and Goodreads, BookBub, those are 3 places I would look, and make sure that your brand shines through in those places. You, the brand, as the author.
Right.
I'm just going to that site that you were just talking about, Marion. Yep.
It's AmeliaBedeliaBooks.com.
Yep, AmeliaBedeliaBooks.com. Yep, I got it.
And welcome to the world.
Meet Amelia Bedelia, meet the authors and illustrators, look at the books. Teach Amelia Bedelia, so, something specifically targeted for educators.
It's actually a good website.
It's really a good website. I really like this. It's simple.
Yeah.
But it's nice, and I love the little animation that just the banner. So it's really kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Awesome. All right, ladies. So, and gentlemen, now I've got our you're our token male that's been joining these groups, Nicholas. We love having all. But yeah, I think this has been a good discussion. As I mentioned, I do have the keyword and category training where we spent. Look at you, Nicholas. Crazy man. So I do have that training I'm going to post a link to, and I'm also going to just record my little tip on how you can get a ton of Facebook likes. So as I mentioned to you, if you go to my Facebook page, the little Labradoodle, I think my likes are somewhere in the neighborhood of, 23,000, something like that.
Yes, please post that.
So, and I walked through it and tested it with somebody else. One of the bloggers that I work with closely, she's a wonderful friend of mine through this whole process. And she texted me the other day and said, I can't believe that this works. I've got thousands of likes, and it took me forever to get just the few hundred that I started with. So it really works well, and I'll post it out there for you.
April?
Yes.
I have another question, but I want to talk to you privately about it. It's nothing private, but it's about your giveaway.
Okay.
I don't want to take the group's time up with it. I just wanted to talk to you later.
Sure thing. You can hang on when others drop, and we can chat. All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for your time, and more to come. I'll be sending out an email with the recorded session. I will do better than what I have been doing, which is usually like 24 hours. I'll put those videos together and have the video replay out, the links out by later this afternoon.
Thank you so much, everyone.
It was great.
Thank you.
Great episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Bro, what time are we meeting today?
This is Megan.
Sorry.
Hi, Megan. Let me just quickly check with Pradeep here, because we were talking about whether he could. I asked him if he had mornings available. He was saying that he was going to be up and available, but I think, you know, with them, the time zone difference, I think we may have gone a little bit over. So let me see if he pings me back and says he's ready to jump on. Worst case, if he's not, then his morning is our afternoon, is our evening. So
Right.
I know as soon as I see him go online, I'll ping him and we should be able to do an impromptu session with him later.
Okay, just let me know.
Okay, I'm excited.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. All right. So
Thank you, April.
you're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
And I'm going to stop the recording as well.